This movie review was requested by OAW Faithful J Hollow. Salute to you, sir. And if you have a request for a film that you would like to see reviewed right here on OAW Entertainment, become a patron at patreon.com/OAW and select the blockbuster tier. In addition to your request for the film of your choice, you also get access to all Patreon exclusive content. You get access to the OAW Vault, which is the original 2 seasons of Otaku Assemble Weekly, the weekly anime and manga review web series that kicked off the channel. You get access to the OAW Discord server. And last but certainly not least, you get a invite to join in on the live monthly Q&A held right here on the OAW YouTube channel, as well as the OAW Facebook page and Twitch channel. So once again, that's patreon.com/OAW and select that blockbuster tier. And with that being said, this is going to be my review of 2007's Mosaic. Let's get it started.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Greetings to everyone tuning in. Shout out to the faithful and salute to the patrons. This is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, here to bring you all a pre-recorded review. It's been a while since I've done one of these. But once again, another huge shout out to my man Jay Hollow for requesting this film. And tonight we are going to be talking about 2007's Mosaic, more adequately titled Stan Lee's Mosaic, or Stan Lee Presents Mosaic. So real quick, this was a funny little movie to return to just because I remember seeing this right when it first came out, because I think shortly after it was released, it actually aired on Cartoon Network, back when Cartoon Network had just restarted the Toonami block, sort of circa 2006, 2007. So I checked it out then, but I have not gone back to this film in years. So it was kind of funny just going back and looking at it, with more of an analytical lens and whatnot. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give you all my thoughts on this film. I will mention a few brief spoilers here and there. So if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, I highly recommend you guys check it out prior to watching this review. I streamed it for free on Tubi. I do believe it is still available on that platform. So by all means, go ahead, check it out, and then come back and check out the rest of the review. All right, so let's get things started. So Mosaic is an animated superhero film originally created by Stan Lee. And the film was actually, funny enough, the film was produced by Manga Entertainment. It was distributed by POW Entertainment and Anchor Bay Entertainment. And with script from X-Men writer Scott Lobdell, and it was directed by Roy Allen Smith. And so real quick, I'll give you all as brief as a synopsis about the film as I can, and then we'll get into more details talking about the writing and the characters and things of that nature. So essentially, Mosaic is your prototypical superhero origin film. That's what this is. We're in full-blown origin territory with this film. Of course, this is one of the independent projects that Stan Lee created, and he's kind of gone back to the mill, if you will, developing his own characters and whatnot. And this particular character, this particular film follows a character named Maggie, who is a college student, and she's an inspiring young actress, a stage actress, because they don't really talk much about her doing film or anything. Is usually just on the stage. But she lives in New York with her dad, who is an Interpol agent, who actually has been investigating a series of sort of high-end robberies that have been taking place around the world in certain museums and things of that nature. Essentially, there have been a lot of sort of like ancient artifacts that have been stolen. So he's been following this ring, and he ends up crossing paths with an assailant that we discover is actually I believe they are called hang on real quick, I'm trying to make sure I get this pronunciation right. The Camelliae, I believe is how they're pronounced. But they are an ancient race of reptilian type humanoids who sort of, the way they are described in the film, it's almost as if they their evolution sort of stopped at a certain point and continued on more of a reptilian trail, whereas the rest of humanity ended up, evolving into what would become Homo sapiens. So Stan Lee's working with this, that whole like ancient reptilian people thing. Like that's kind of the backdrop for these characters. But they, as I mentioned before, they're a race of an ancient race of like reptilian humanoids who have chameleon-like abilities. So what they can do is they can do things like cloak. They can change their voice to imitate sound, and they can also shapeshift into different people, into different beings, different creatures, things of that nature. So they're kind of like the Skrull on steroids, essentially, is what they are. Maggie's dad pretty much crosses paths with one of them. His name is Mannequin, and he is the big bad for this film. And essentially, Mannequin's plot is to travel the world, recovering the ancient chameleon artifacts that will allow him to commit a ritual that will essentially turn him into a deity. That's pretty much what his main supervillain plot is. So of course, Maggie's dad, he crosses paths with him, ends up getting injured, and but before that happens, he's actually able to take one of the artifacts and stash them back home. Maggie, of course, ends up uncovering it one night, and that what creates the freak accident that ends up giving her her powers, and her powers are that of the chameleon. So now she can do the same thing. She can turn invisible. She can climb walls and whatnot. And of course, there's an obligatory like Sam Raimi Spider-Man reference in this film, which I did chuckle when I saw it, because I was like, dang, and this was only 5 years after that movie came out, right? But yeah, there's one of those scenes where she's kind of like discovering her powers for the first time and whatnot. And then, of course, as I said, she can also shapeshift into other people. She can mimic their voices. I think she can even, not only can she turn invisible, but she can also like turn colors too. So that's another thing she can do too. But pretty much all of the abilities of a chameleon is what she can do. So after she gets these new powers, quickly after that, her dad's abducted by Mannequin, who kind of just brings him along for the ride. Meanwhile, Maggie also crosses paths with our titular character, Mosaic, whose name is Mosaic because apparently in his people's language, Mosaic is the English term most akin to what his native name is. So he just uses that moniker, right? But he is actually sort of taking it upon himself to try and track down Mannequin and stop him from doing his, evil villain plot. So he teams up with Maggie. They end up sort of going on this, globe-trotting adventure to try and stop Mannequin from being able to recover these ancient artifacts. And a couple of times they actually do cross paths with him. But meanwhile, so Mosaic he learns that Maggie has obtained their abilities. And so it's sort of this weird kind of fish out of water fish out of water meets mentor student type relationship that they end up developing. And essentially the whole thing culminates in this big showdown in the Arctic where Mannequin pretty much is about to succeed. His plan is about to work, and it's up to Maggie and Mosaic to try and stop him, at the last minute. So guys, y'all seen these types of stories before. Like I said, full-blown superhero origin. You kind of know how it already works. You kind of know all the tropes and whatnot. I'm just going to break this thing down, give you all my thoughts on it, what I think works, what I think doesn't, and then wrap this whole thing up. So writing wise, like I said, prototypical superhero origin, it's not badly done. I will give it that. In terms of the material that Stan is providing for us and whatnot, I think it is solid at that point, I mean, really it is. I didn't really find too many loopholes or I'm sorry, too many plot holes in it. It's pretty tight, actually. And I will even go as far as to say this: there are some areas where the story is actually better than it deserves to be. Mainly, what happens with Maggie's dad. Yeah, Agent Nelson. He is actually like in terms of characterization and whatnot, he's actually pretty good. And what happens with his character by film's end, sort of the setup for him, I actually like. So here's the other thing about this film too. It does play out like the pilot of an animated series. It really does. It feels like the first 3 episodes of an animated series, and where we are by the end of the film, you can kind of see this like, okay, yeah, this is where the weekly adventures continue after this point, because where we leave our characters is like, okay, this is what we're doing. Now, of course, it does, one does have to wonder where the story progresses from here, just because this film sort of gets into the weeds about the ancient reptilian culture and with their mythology and stuff like that. And a lot of it, I think, is actually wrapped up by film's end. So I never checked out the comic, because there is like sort of like this limited run that Stan Lee did do. I never checked those out, so I'm not sure the territory he took it. But for what's in this film, for what they're doing, yeah, like I said, it's a small story, but it's a pretty tightly woven one too. That I will give it credit for. But unfortunately, it's very stereotypical. It's really, really stereotypical. Most of the plot you can see coming a mile away. A lot of the things I called, and one of the big twists, like the big reveal during the climax of the film. Yeah, man. I was like, ooh, they did that. I was like, okay. So yeah, we're not really doing anything new with this material. Very much retreading familiar territory. But like I said, if it's if you're showing this to like a 5 or a 6-year-old who may not be as entrenched with superhero and comic book storytelling, if this is, if these sort of things might be new to them, that's why I say it makes for a good like Saturday morning like kids show. That's pretty much how this whole thing plays out. So yeah, so that's pretty much it with in terms of the writing. Tightly woven, but stereotypical. Real quick, I do want to talk a little bit more about the characters. Like I said, the big surprise is Agent Nelson. Him, I think was maybe the most intriguing character, which is kind of sad considering that he's not in the film that much. But he's definitely relatable and he's understandable. You get his character motivation, you get where he's coming from. All of that is good. Mannequin, I will tell you this too. Mannequin is an intriguing character, especially as an antagonist. But again, the only letdown with him was that he did play out so much like a stereotypical comic book villain, particularly because there are moments in the film where he actually is smarter than I think you would give him credit for. Some of the things he does is like, actually, you know what? No, that made really good sense, or that was a really good idea. But in the end, his plot gets foiled in sort of standard comic book fashion. Yeah, so there's that. And then I will go real quick. I'll talk about Mosaic real quick. He's not in the film enough, which is it's a little mind-boggling considering that he is the titular character. But Mosaic is it's more of like a costumed title than it is his actual name. And by the time you get to the end of the film, you see what I mean by that. It's more of a title. But we should have gotten more of him. Just straight up, we should have gotten more of him. Yeah, especially since he's supposed to be our window into this reptilian culture and this world, he should have been in the film more, definitely. Maggie is fine for a protagonist. Again, very stereotypical, especially, stereotypical New York white teenage female type character of the 21st century. Very, very stereotypical in that sense. Maggie's a lot smarter than I think you would give her credit for as well. They don't do the dumb blonde thing, and that's what I was kind of afraid that they would do revisiting this film. They don't. She's not a dumb blonde. She's actually a lot more clever, which is one of her advantages over Mannequin, because he does the same thing. He sort of underestimates her, but I mean, you look at it from a 2020 to 2021 lens, there are some issues with her character. The white savior complex is all over this film, and it's kind of cringeworthy. So yeah, she's a tad bit problematic in that sense, but like I said, this is a kids series, kids film, so they don't really care about that, and they won't even go to that place. So don't even worry too much about that. I will go as far as to say, probably the worst character in the film is Steven, for a plethora of reasons. But Steven is that stereotypical best friend who really has a crush on Maggie. And I mean, he's just your textbook blue pill beta chump. That's what he is. The friend zone chump is exactly what he is. And for as much of a good friend as he is to Maggie, what happens at the end of the movie? She's alpha widowed for a dude that she just met. And again, he's sitting right there in the friend zone. I am totally befuddled that Stan would write a character like that. But then again, Stan comes from a different time. Which is kind of weird too, because Stan had game as a young man. Why would he write it? I don't know why Stan would do that. Chalk it up to old age, I guess. I don't know why he would do that. That's damn, Stan, damn. Anywho, but yeah. So there's that. Okay, so let's talk about the animation. As I mentioned before, this was actually produced by Manga Entertainment, which Manga Entertainment, is a company with, I guess you could say, somewhat of a mixed history, just because I think they are more famous for a lot of the anime that they licensed to come over to the States than they are like their original productions. But the animation is fine. It's not great per se, but it's not as bad as you would also think. It's actually a lot better in some spots. Because I mean, just look at the graphic I have here. Like, it actually doesn't look bad. It's just there are some moments, particularly with the action scenes, where it's a little bit inconsistent. Because you'll have some animation that seems very fixed and almost like stiff. Like kind of like stock footage almost. And then you'll have some where it's very fluid. So, and then of course you'll have some that's very detailed, and then you'll have some that just look kind of bland. So it's not so much that the animation itself is bad. It's just that the quality is not as consistent throughout the course of the entire film. That's the only real knock against it. But all in all, I mean, it's about standard for what you would consider to be, mid 2000s Saturday morning cartoon animation. So yeah, and let's see. Don't really have much to say about the music and whatnot. I mean, for the most part, it's just your standard like background music. The score seems sort of like just stock music. Nothing too special or too bombastic or anything like that. Nothing that really stands out that much. It's just all kind of oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna take that back. There is one piece of music I will talk about. There's one piece of music I will mention because I recognized it as soon as I heard it. There is a piece of music, again, it's background music, that I swear is, And I went back because I rewind it and I know there's a piece of music in this from X-Men Evolution. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my freaking God. Yeah, there's a piece of background music in here from X-Men Evolution from, I want to say it's the second episode of X-Men Evolution. Yeah. It's the second episode. And I just thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious when I heard it. I was like, what? So yeah, I thought that was funny. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that pretty much does wrap up my thoughts on the film. Final rating, like I said, the film's fine. It's not terrible. But if you are, sort of a diehard comic book aficionado or, superhero fan in general, especially of superhero films, you've seen this type of story before. That's why, like I say, I recommend it for kids, particularly little kids who don't know any better and who haven't been exposed to as much entertainment. They will get a kick out of this. So by all means, highly recommend it out to them. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up this review. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for tuning in again. As always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media, facebook.com/OAW Entertainment, twitter.com/OAWENTMT, twitch.tv/OAW _entertainment, right here on youtube.com/OAW Entertainment. And last but certainly not least, if you have a request for a film that you would like to be reviewed right here on OAW Entertainment, become a patron at patreon.com/OAW and select that blockbuster tier. And final huge shout out, once again, huge thanks to OAW faithful Jay Hollow for the request. As always, much appreciated, good sir. All right, time for me to get out of here. Once again, thanks you all for tuning in. This has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I am signing off. Until next time, peace.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?